Let's take a moment to appreciate the wind, appreciate the sound of leaves moving in the wind. Let's take a moment to appreciate even the car sounds behind me. The true mastery of our stillness comes from a place within us where we can be in our grace no matter what location we're in. And I've practiced this. I've been to a club with a lot of derogatory music, very loud, sounds like thrashing music, and among that energy, that icky, dense, negative energy, the darkness of the dark, I was able to still be the light, still be the grace, still be the wittiness, be the joy, be the laughter. So are you able now to be connected, to tune in to the fabrics of nature, even in the loudness of the subway, on the bus, even in Times Square in New York City, even beside a railroad, beside the traffic? Are you able to maintain that state of grace? Or do you get irritable? Do you get frustrated? Do you turn away? So there are many realities to this world, to this cosmic flow. Because there are many yous. There are lower yous and there are higher yous. And you know when that higher you comes forward. Because that higher you encompasses all of the yous. That higher you understands the lowest you. It gets that you. Now, the lowest you cannot fully grasp that highest you. That lower you only really has a vantage point of that energy. But when we connect with that highest us, we are able to truly have compassion for that person inside of us, deep within us, that lower self. So the reality that connects you to all realities is connecting with the satellite within you. We are all just one satellite, each of us. It's kind of like a satellite that we don't truly know how to work. We don't truly know how to use. It's like going to a space observatory and not knowing how to use the telescopes. It takes practice, it takes trusting your intuition. It takes adjustments. It takes observing others. But overall, it takes you going within yourself and truly pursuing the knowledge of how to use a telescope, particularly those very large ones. So that satellite within you, the knowledge on how to connect, how to tune in, is inside your Akashic records. All things contain Akashic records. We all have our individualized, but it's like a book in a library. The book isn't the library. It isn't the Akashic record. The book is a part of the library. It's one of many, many books, but we all have access to this library. We all each have a book, and we can connect with each other's books through empathy, through compassion, and through patience. But our lower self doesn't have the time of day to connect with the book of somebody else. Because the books is layers. There's layers. We have the lower layers, the stories of our rage, our anger, our fear, and then the higher levels where we look at that lower self with compassion, with grace, with understanding, with empathy. Now for us right now collectively, we are wanting to step on the path of our higher consciousness so that we can begin to make sense of our lower self. Begin to make sense of the anger and the frustration and the bitterness and the hurtingness from heartbreak. And only our higher self is able to truly provide us with that vibration of release, that vibration that liberates us. It can't be described with words. It's a feeling of being truly liberated, like Native Americans dancing around a fire. They're liberating themselves. In the midst of violence and hostilities with the Europeans, the Native Americans still are dancing around the fire. The fire is symbolic for our karma. Like when we do the breath of fire, it is symbolic for relieving our karma. And our karma is more so connected with our impulse, our free will that our lower self participates in a lot. The free will of lashing out, of jumping to conclusions, of leaving, running away, of ignoring a problem, an inability to work through the problem with patience, with compassion. So we do the liberation dance as Native Americans around the fire because we are letting our lower selves go into the fire. It's though we are not fragmenting ourselves, but we are diving our entire being into the fire to relieve ourselves of the self-sabotage. The self-sabotage is our fear. Our self-sabotage is the voice that can't find reason. The voice that tells us that nothing makes sense. But you can still live a good life, even if nothing makes sense through the logic mind. Because you may find on your spiritual path that your logic mind is not truly in sync with that higher mind that's in the auric field layers above your body. Because your mind, like the minds of all of us, your brain, is very much a part of this old tradition, this old Homo sapien. And your higher consciousness tapping into that layer of frequency above your mind, in your auric field, the layers above, you are anchoring it slowly into your actual physical brain, not just for you, but for the generations, for your children. And soon enough, our actual biology, our brain will begin to reflect our higher consciousness energy frequency that's above the layers of our brain right now. So if your logic mind stumbles, stutters, and I get that stuttery feeling when I'm channeling sometimes where I kind of forget and it seems like an overload of information, just understand that your higher consciousness mind is too full of life, is too expansive for this brain state of evolution, the Homo sapien. Now again, the brain itself is capable of infinite possibilities, telekinesis, telepathic, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all psychic abilities the brain is capable of. But at the same time, as our brain muscles expand, we will find, even on planets such as Mars, they predict the body will shrink, gets smaller in size due to the gravity, and the brains will naturally expand due to you can imagine the muscle growth. The muscle growth in the brain causes the very volume, you could say, your skull, to kind of grow gradually. So this is what I feel we are doing. And it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be generations to come. We're going to see this expansion, the very biology that we are, to be compatible with this new energy of expansiveness, of metaphysics, that want to flood into our hearts and into our minds. So the cosmic flow with the ETs and the frequencies beyond this third-dimensional plane, or maybe a third-dimensional race, but not on this planet, I feel the expansion of the mind. We have an expansion of our ability to communicate. And communication is our foundation right now in our world for everything, really. Communication is the foundation for science expansion, mathematic expansion, literature expansion, community expansion, agriculture expansion, our communication, our sharing, our network. And I feel with our expansion we'll become more like the trees. Our network of communication will not be something of our communication will be a form of telepathic wave of energy, because the telepathic wave of energy is actually a more energetically I could say balanced way. Could say balanced, but it's an energetically when we are like the trees and telepathically communicating, we are not consuming so much of our energy. But right now, just to simply say a word, I am consuming a lot of my energy. Okay? And I feel through this getting to the direct source, the direct exchange, we will be able to communicate a whole download of information, like a whole book on mathematics, and we'll be able to not be drained by that. We'll be able to flood in our entire life book into that person just by energetically looking at them, like a tree looking at another tree gets the whole entire download of that being in one vibrational outburst. And that is our future. We'll be able to communicate with the animals, and we'll find that the animals won't be as hostile towards us and us towards them, because we'll be able to understand the animals and their unique lifestyle, their unique mental constructs, their unique way of going about their day. We'll be able to understand, therefore won't impose so much of our customs on the animals that cause hostilities. And we will do this with each other. Vibrationally just feel and know without needing to describe. So us as earthlings, we are feelers. That is our unique identification in the cosmos. We are feelers. We have this huge heart center of electromagnetic field that's circling out of our heart area. It's very strong and powerful. And the ETs have a great investment in our experimental realm, because we are magnificent as humans, because we within our DNA have DNA of a multitude of alien races within the cosmos, which is very interesting. It's like we are an exact reflection of the cosmos, of Pleiadians, Arcturians, of the Lyrians, of the Orions. We have all of that DNA in our very sequence. It's quite interesting. And that's why a lot of ETs who are infertile, meaning they have no ability to procreate, come to us humans, because in our DNA In the woman's structured womb is the DNA of almost all life itself, of the Greys, of the Arcturians, of the Pleiadians, of the Orions. We have that in our DNA sequence. They just know how to separate the DNA sequence to tap into a particular code that they need for their own species continuation. So our womb, as women, is very powerful. It is like when you're on your menstrual cycle. You're very much burning through karma when you're on your menstrual cycle, because that's a fire. It's like the sun. It's this fire of energy. So when you're on that menstrual cycle and there's this draining feeling or this exhaustion feeling, it's because all of this energy is circulating inside of you like a giant fire, ready to heat that womb, kind of like a furnace, ready to cook and ready to birth, because it takes energy to birth. And like the fire with the Native Americans dancing around in liberation is a state of energy, of heat. It's a heat. And that's very much the menstrual cycle. It continues to be like this furnace, creating this heat, high energy for that moment in time when there will be a little speck of a cell creating in that womb. It's in a furnace, a nice heat ball of energy, and it uses that to create itself. Like the sun. The sun is enough energy and heat to provide omega life on planet Earth and in other places. So I feel these are all the messages that I feel guided to channel at this time.